Let's open up with a prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings, and all sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face the east towards Jerusalem. Abba Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yashak, the Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim of Yahshua, we thank you, Yah, once again for bringing us through the week, Yahweh, bringing your servants into safety, Yahweh, and hearing the prayers of your saints, Yahweh, and being merciful to us, Yahweh. For we make errors, Yahweh, we fall, but your servants try to get back up, Yahweh. We help one another up, Yahweh, and we try to keep our footing, Yahweh. We do not take you for granted or the mercy that you give us, Yahweh. We give you the best attempt that we can, Yah. So we humbly come before you, asking that you empower us, Yahweh, that you strengthen us, Yahweh, that you increase our spiritual endurance, Yahweh, not only to just deal with the things that we're dealing with, but Yahweh, to help one another carry each other's burdens, Yahweh. For we understand that, if one walks alone and he falls, there's no one to help him up, Yah. So we ask that you always provide us someone to walk with, Yahweh, so that we can help another individual up, so that we can have faith and full belief that in our time of need, you will always provide a servant, Yahweh, if not a spirit, to help us get back on our feet, Yah. For we know that this is not a race for the swift, Yah. So we ask once again, Yahweh, that you be patient with us, Yahweh, that you increase our understanding and our eyes to see, especially when we look in the mirror, Yahweh, to see all those details that are too ugly for our carnal eyes to see, Yahweh. We ask that you allow our spiritual eye and our light, Yahweh, to be able to identify those things in ourselves and one another, Yah. Yah, this day we freely sacrifice this day unto you, Yahweh, for it belongs unto you, for it is your Shabbat. You hallowed it, you blessed it, you separated it, Yahweh. So we put aside our burdens for one day, Yahweh, and we pick up your peace and your blessing, Yahweh, for we so desperately need it in these times and these tribulations that we navigate through, Yah. So we honor you on this day, Yahweh. We give you all the glory and all the honor, Yahweh. And we thank you once again, Yahweh, for your mercy, Yahweh. Yah, all these things we humbly come before you, and we thank and pray for your holy, humble, anointed Son, Yahshua HaMashiach. Amen. Amen. All right, Shabbat Shalom. My name is Yedan Yasharah, my brother Yonatan Yasharah. Shabbat Shalom. And the title of today's Shabbat study is "The Carnal Will Not Inherit the Kingdom." The carnal will not inherit the kingdom. And one of the worst mistakes that we can make in this walk is to think that our flesh, our bloodline, or who we are, whose son we are, is somehow going to gain us entryway into the kingdom alone. All your carnal bloodline does in this earth is give you a responsibility, give you an order in this earth, but it does not guarantee any entryway. And for the children of Yasharah, being bloodline only guarantees that you are under some severe standards to enter into the kingdom. So much that the prophecy is given to us that a large percentage of us are going to be cut off from the kingdom because we will not transcend this flesh and become the who we truly are, which is the spirit that's inside of us. So we have to get out of a carnal mind frame and understand that, yeah, we have to live and walk in a carnal world, but we are a spiritual being. This carnal flesh is nothing but a vehicle for the spirit to operate in a carnal world. If we were in space or space-like creatures, we would just be light because we wouldn't need any flesh. We'd be able to do whatever we need to do without flesh. But because we are on the earth and we're subjected to the earth, we're in flesh. But that wasn't for us to allow the flesh to control our spiritual movements. And this is what happens often when you are not allowing the spirit to guide you or humbling yourselves and submitting to the authority of the Most High in his commandments. The flesh will do what it needs to do to satisfy itself. And we see as being pulled out of that and being cognizant of that and working to not fall victim to that. We witness this, and we witness people fall to this all the time, and including ourselves and other servants. But at least when a servant falls and he's around spiritual people, we can come together. We cannot judge that individual. We can pray for one another. We can help each other back up. But when you are carnal and you fall, you're going to be left with the carnal way of dealing with things, which may address a carnal aspect, but won't address the spiritual aspect, which means you're setting yourself up to keep falling in the same thing. We ask that once again for prayers for one another. We ask the saints to come together, confess your faults to one another, confess the things that you're going through, humble yourselves, push that pride to the side, and talk to your brothers and sisters that are doing their best to walk in this word, that are trying to keep these commandments. Talk to one another so that you can pray for one another, because we have to stand in the breach for one another, because every last one of us are going to be in a situation where our own decisions and our own transgressions has caused us not to have our prayers heard. And when we pray for one another, this allows us to receive the spiritual help that we need. So we should never feel that we are so clean that, that our prayers are heard all the time and that we can deal with our situations alone. And that's not true. When the Most High put us together, he put us together as a family, because it takes the whole body to do something. The arm can't do anything by itself. The leg can't walk without the other leg. Everything works together. So let us understand that we are a spiritual body, and let us try to come together. So we're going to open up first in Joshua chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 10 through 18. Joshua chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 10 through 18. And it just seems that this is the season for a lot of tribulation and anguish right now. If you are a viewer and you're going through it and you don't necessarily have an assembly, a personal assembly that you can assemble with to come together and pray with one another, utilize this time when we're on the class and put your supplication out there. That woman that was of another nation, her daughter was suffering a bad illness, and she went to Yahshua and she put her supplication out there. Closed mouths don't get fed. And she put her petition out there, even though, she knew that she was a little out of order, but she still put that petition out there, and the Most High heard her. The word gave her mercy. So if you have a petition out there, put it out there, share it, and we'll pray. We'll pray for one another. Joshua chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 10 through 18.
Then Yahshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, Pass through the host and command the people, saying, Prepare you victuals, for within 3 days you shall pass over this Jordan, to go in and possess the land, which Yahweh your Elohim gives you to possess it. And to the Reubenites, and to the Gadites, and to the half-tribe of Manasseh spoke Yahshua, saying, Remember the word which Moshe, the servant of Yahweh, commanded you, saying, Yahweh your Elohim has given you rest and has given you this land. Your wives, your little ones, and your cattle shall remain in the land which Moshe gave you on this side of Jordan. But you shall pass before your brethren armed, all the mighty men of valor, and help them, until Yahweh have given your brethren rest, as he has given you, and they also have possessed the land which Yahweh your Elohim gives them. Then you shall return unto the land of your possession, and enjoy it, which Yahweh's servant gave you on this side of Jordan toward the sun rising. And they answered Yahshua, saying, all that you command us, we will do, and wheresoever you send us, we will go. According as we hearken unto Moshe in all things, so will we hearken unto you. Only Yahweh your Elohim be with you, as he was with Moshe. Whosoever he be that does rebel against your commandment, and will not hearken unto your words, and all that you command him, he shall be put to death. Only be strong and of good courage.
All right, so we received the inheritance. And again, this was given to the entire family. But there's a line drawn in the sand here. He who's not going to keep these commandments is going to be put to death. They are not going to inherit the land. They're not going to be able to benefit of the family inheritance. So this is not something we agreed to. This is something our forefathers agreed to. So we were born into that. So it's just like a child that has an inheritance left for him or an estate or something of that matter. And the parent or a family member says, no, you must do this, 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 and this to gain this inheritance. You didn't agree to that. You were born into that. But at the end of the day, when that person is gone and you're alive, doesn't mean you can say, hey, listen, nah, I want to change that. Let's change the way this is written. I can get it if I turn 18 and I just feel like it, or I want to start a business, or I want to do this or do what I want. No, they ain't going to change. That was established before you were born. Now you can do whatever you want and not get the inheritance. That's up to you. So we have to understand the carnal way of doing things, which is the same way that our forefathers did, the same way all the other nations do things, is not going to inherit the promise that's set before us. So let's move on. Let's go to Joshua chapter 5, and we're going to read verses 4 through 12. And Shabbat Shalom, Ariel Smith. Shabbat Shalom, G. Shakol. Shabbat Shalom, Sister Tanya and Brother Isaiah. Good to see y'all, family. And Shabbat Shalom, Jasmine Sapp. Good to see y'all, family. Hope Yahweh is with everyone.
Yeah. Yahshua chapter 5 and verse 4. And this is the cause why Yahshua did circumcise.
Let's start at verse 1.
And it came to pass, when all the kings of the Amorites, which were on the side of Jordan westward, and all the kings of the Canaanites, which were by the sea, heard that Yahweh had dried up the waters of Jordan from before the children of Yasharal until we were passed over, that their heart melted, neither was there spirit in them any more because of the children of Yasharal. At that time Yahweh said unto Yahshua, make you sharp knives, and circumcise again the children of Yasharal the second time. And Yahshua made him sharp knives, and circumcised the children of Yasharal at the hill of foreskins. And this is the cause why Yahshua did circumcise. All the people that came out of Mitzrayim that were males, even all the men of war, died in the wilderness by the way after they came out. Now all the people that came out were circumcised, but all the people that were born in the wilderness by the way as they came forth out of Mitzrayim, them they had not circumcised.
So you see here, all the men that were in Egypt that came out, that were 20 years and over, the age of war, all those individuals were circumcised, and those individuals died in the wilderness. Now, except for Caleb and Yahshua, those were the only two over the age of 20 that were able to walk into the kingdom. Now, the children, they weren't circumcised. So the children weren't necessarily sealed their covenant, but yet all those that were sealed under the covenant over 20 could not let that carnality go. Even the leaders, even Moses, even Aaron, Miriam, all those people, because of carnality, were not allowed to walk into the kingdom. Moshe, as a leader, had the least amount of carnality, but because he was a leader, just a little bit of anger that he allowed him to not sanctify the children of Yasharal, he wasn't able to walk into the kingdom with the rest of the people that walked into there. So this just goes to show you that, yeah, just because you are carnally something, if you don't get that under control and do what you need to do spiritually, the Most High is not playing. He made his example. It ain't like the Most High was in puberty when he did this, and now he's an adult, or he's grown. So now, I was a little upset when I was a kid. I had a hot temper when I was young, but now things are different. No, this is the same Most High. Do you think that he loved us more than he loved our forefathers, or vice versa? No, he loved his children the same, just like you don't love your fourthborn more than you love your firstborn, or vice versa. You love your children, period. So this is the same example that he's showing, that he is not playing with carnality, especially with his leaders and those that he puts to give charges. Go ahead.
Verse 6, for the children of Yasharal walked 40 years in the wilderness, till all the people that were men of war which came out of Mizraim were consumed, because they obeyed not the voice of Yahweh, unto whom Yahweh swore that he would not show them the land, which Yahweh swore to their fathers that he would give us, a land that flows with milk and honey. He
swore he would not give that to us if we did not get rid of that same Babylonish garment that we wanted to take with us, like Achan. We want to leave and get away, but then we want to take something with us. And Yah's like, no, leave all that stuff behind. So we didn't want to leave them pagan practices. We didn't want to leave the idolistic worship. We didn't want to leave the fornication that we would do amongst each other. And we didn't want to leave the lack of love that we had as a nation. We didn't want to leave those things behind. And we murmured against him in the wilderness, to the point where it aggravated a leader who was the meekest person on the earth. Go ahead. Get the phone so they can hear you, sis.
Just a comment with something that I realized with Moses, just like you were saying, with us as a people, we didn't want to leave some of these things. And then looking at Moshe's problem was anger, because in anger he smote the Egyptian and he killed him.
Right.
And then that same anger he didn't leave when Yah called him to be a servant of his, and that's why he didn't get to see the promised land, because out of anger he smote the rock and stuff. So
right.
That's just Moses. He wasn't perfect.
Exactly. No man was perfect. And that just goes to show you that, the Most High not trying to hear no excuses about your carnality, which caused you to not do your job spiritually. He's not hearing it. And you don't have to be the leader of an assembly, the leader of a nation, a teacher, a priest, or some special job to feel that you are not in a leadership position. We are a nation that is in a leadership position. So every last one of us has a responsibility. And because the Most High is so merciful, he sent his son to die for us, to buy us grace period, so that we could burn off all that carnality. But if we're not utilizing that time to burn off that carnality, we're going to find ourselves cut off from the inheritance. And that was a very good comment, sister.
Verse.
And Shabbat Shalom, Sister Tafar. Good to see you. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 7. And their children, whom he raised up in their stead, them Yahshua circumcised, for they were uncircumcised because they had not circumcised them by the way. And it came to pass, when they had done circumcising all the people, that they abode in their places in the camp till they were whole. And Yahweh said unto Yahshua, this day have I rolled away the reproach of Mitzrayim from off you. Wherefore the name of the place is called Gilgal unto this day. And the children of Yasharal encamped in Gilgal, and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at even in the plains of Jericho. And they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover, unleavened cakes and parched corn in the selfsame day. And the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. Neither had the children of Yasharal manna any more, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year.
All right. So let's stop right there. Let's move on. Let's go to Romans chapter 9. Romans chapter 9. And one of the huge disservices that many assemblies are doing to our children is they're teaching them, you know, that all they of Israel are saved, and you know, and that's true, but it's almost like when you turn the truth into a lie, when you take something that's true but you're presenting it in a way that's not accurate, which is very dangerous, and that's a tactic of the adversary, the devil. And you tell somebody that, you know, you're Israel, you're fine, then that takes away their accountability. That takes away what they're supposed to be working on as the children of Israel. And here in Romans, they're gonna, you know, they're gonna make sure that you understand that that's not the case. Yes, the statement is true. All they of Israel will be saved. But who is Israel? Is Israel just a bloodline, or is Israel a nation? And what makes you part of that nation? Go ahead.
Romans chapter 9 and verse 1. I say the truth in Mashiach, I lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Ruach Kodesh, Holy Spirit, that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Mashiach from my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites.
Okay, so again, who are Israelites? Yasharallah. So Yasharallah, who makes this up? What is the responsibility you have? It didn't say who are the kings, who are the high priests, who are the leaders of the captains of the army. It didn't give a specific role and responsibility that this is pertaining to. This is talking about the entire nation, men and women, a responsibility that is given to us. And this is a spiritual responsibility, not a carnal responsibility. Go ahead.
Who are Israelites, to whom pertains the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of Elohim and the promises.
And the promises. So these are works. So who pertains to the adoption? Who was adopted and brought into this family? And the glory, and who Yah places his glory on this earth so that he receives the glory. Now, what we did is we would take that glory for ourselves. No, we are a tool. We are supposed to be glory, just like a woman is glory unto her husband. But she's not supposed to take that husband's glory by usurping his authority. And it's the same thing here with the covenants, the promises. He made the promise with us, the marriage covenant. And the giving of the law, it is our responsibility to give the law to our nation and then to the rest of the nations. And the service of Elohim, we do the works. We are the servants. We have been chosen to be the greatest among all the nations. And what did Yahshua say about the greatest of them all?
It should be servant.
Should be the servant of them all. The greatest of in the kingdom shall be the servants of them all. And the promises. All the promises. The promises ain't only, hey, I promise if you do this, you're going to get a house. I also promise if you don't follow the rules of this house, you're going to be put out this house. And you're not going to inherit. You're going to disinherit. So all these things, you don't have to be, you know, somebody that been an elder in the word for 40 years for you to have a responsibility in this world, in this word. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Who are the fathers and of whom concerning the flesh Mashiach came, who is over all. Elohim blessed forever. Amen.
So who concerning the flesh did the Mashiach come for?
Israel.
Israel. In the flesh, he came for Israel. But when he came in the spirit, that spirit was the spirit that was put into us, that was for the entire world. Everybody who wanted to walk in righteousness. But there's an order of that. That spirit first goes into Yahshua. That vessel, and then goes into the rest of the nation. And the rest of the nation was supposed to take that spirit and use it for the covenants, for the giving of the law, and the service of Elohim. And now we're supposed to serve our people. And once our nation is trained up and our nation is able, then the rest of the world who wants to hold on to life would now benefit from that. But the Mashiach didn't come for those other nations. And see, again, this is where people are messing this up. They trying to teach people that the Mashiach came for Israel only and he don't care about nobody else. No, in the flesh, he came for Israel only, to prepare Israel to be a light unto the Gentiles, to be a light unto all the nations. And when you shine a light on something, you're showing the error of somebody's ways and say, you don't see all this dirt and all this problem here? This is what we do. We shine the light. But at the end of the day, he cares about the rest of the nations as well. The rest of the nations also have an opportunity at eternal life, but not before the order of the Most High. So again, that's when people take this word and try to twist it and turn it and try to make it look like you're going to tell somebody because they're of another nation that they just going to the lake of fire. They got no hope. What kind of foolishness is that? Nowhere in this book does that support that, but it does support an order. And if one thing is first, that means something else is last, but it's still in the order. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Not as though the word of Elohim has taken none effect, for they are not all Yasharal which are of Yasharal. Neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children, but in Yitzchak shall your seed be called.
All right, so this is something we have to be. It's a very frightening thing to understand. That not as though the word of Elohim has taken none effect, not as if Yahweh said something in vain, like his promises didn't mean anything. No, that's not the case. But they are not all upright with all that are of the upright of all. Yasharal, or the Prince of Power. Everybody is not upright with the Most High just because you are a spiritual seed, a bloodline individual. It didn't work that way. The same a remnant that had to be pulled out of the wilderness is the same remnant that's going to have to be pulled in the wilderness with us as well. And when we return back onto the land. So we have to keep that in mind. Just because we found out that we are of the bloodline of Yasharal, are you of the spiritual bloodline of Yasharal? And the spiritual bloodline of Yasharal was going to be identified not through carnal things, but spiritual things, because the law is spiritual. Go ahead.
That is, they which are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of Elohim, but children of the promise are counted for the seed. Verse 9. For this is the word of promise. At this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. And not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Yitzchak, for the children being not yet born, having done neither any good or evil, that the purpose of Elohim according to the election might stand, not of works, but of him that called. It was also said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger, as it was written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. What shall I say then? Is there unrighteousness with Elohim? Certainly not. For he says to Moshe, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. So then, it is not of him that wills, nor of him that runs, but of Elohim that shows mercy.
So if Yahweh shows us mercy, how disrespectful is it that he showed us mercy so that we could repent, that we take that mercy and turn around and try him and disrespect him and continue in that fashion? That's the same thing of when he gave us mercy by sending his son in flesh to die for us, to free us from the law of sin and death temporarily, because it's just temporarily during this grace period, that we spit on that mercy that he has. Do you think he's going to turn around and give us mercy again when it's time to receive mercy, when he gave us the ultimate mercy that caused the life of his son, but we chose to not deal with that mercy? Does somebody have a comment? All right, go ahead, brother.
Romans 9, verse 16. So then it is not of him that wills, nor of him that runs, but of Elohim that shows mercy. For the scripture says unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised you up, that I might show my power in you, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. Therefore has he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he will, he hardens.
And whom he will, he hardens. So he's going to be merciful up front. You're going to automatically receive something you don't deserve. Grace and mercy. You receive that grace and mercy. You continue in the acts that are not giving glory unto him. Then Yah says, okay, I've given you all this mercy. I want you to be an honorable vessel, but you want to be a dishonorable vessel. That's fine. I'm going to use you to be a dishonorable vessel. I'm going to use you to show my power so that these Gentiles, so these other heathen nations could know who I am, because I didn't expose myself to them. I exposed myself to Israel. But because this individual Pharaoh want to have a hard heart, guess what? I'll harden it. Now everybody going to know about the Elohim of Yasharal because of you, because you're going to serve me one way or another. Go ahead.
Verse 19. You will say then unto me, why does he yet find fault? For who has resisted his will? Nay, but, O man, who are you that you reply against Elohim? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why have you made me thus? Has not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another unto dishonor? What if Elohim, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction, and that he might make known the riches of his glory on the vessels of mercy, which he had afore prepared unto glory, even us, whom he has called, not of the Yehudim only, but also of the Gentiles. As he says also in Hosea, I will call them my people which were not my people, and her beloved which was not beloved. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, you are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living Elohim. Isaiah also cries concerning Yasharal, though the number of the children of Yasharal be as the sand of the sea, a remnant shall be saved.
And that's very scary as well. Though the number of the children of Yasharal be as the sand of the sea, which is innumerable. And it doesn't seem like that because we are such a minority in majority of our captivities where we're at, you know. And even when we are the majority, we still not running nothing there. So it's a very scary fact to look at this as though we as the sand of the sea, only a remnant shall be saved. So we have to ask yourself, what will make you part of the remnant? What makes you so righteous that you're a part of the remnant? And if you feel that, well, I'm just part of the remnant because I'm just so righteous, then you're doing yourself a disservice, because we don't know what standard he's holding us to. He knows what the finished product is. We don't know that. You don't know whether you're supposed to be Moshe in position or the guy who sweeps the floor. You don't know that. So if you shooting to be the guy that sweeps the floor thinking you're doing a good job, and you're supposed to be somebody that's going to be on a Moshe level where you're going to be a giver of the law, you're not going to meet the measurement. So we have to utilize this time and do the best that we can in understanding that, listen, the numbers don't look good. And I know I'm not worthy in comparison to the people I read about in this book. So let me do the best I can to show the Most High how much I want that mercy. Go ahead.
Verse 28. For he will finish the work and cut it short in righteousness, because a short work will Yahweh make upon the earth. And as Isaiah said before, except Yahweh Sabaoth had left us a seed, we had been in Sodom and been made like unto Gomorrah. What shall we say then? That the Gentiles, which followed not after righteousness, have attained to righteousness, even the righteousness which is of faith?
Is that ethnos? Look at the word for Gentiles.
1484.
Okay, that's ethnos, I believe. And Shabbat Shalom, Mindy Byers. Shabbat Shalom, Glennis Gale. Good to see y'all, family. Ethnos? Okay. So when you look at that word for Gentiles, just a footnote, when you're reading in the New Testament and uses the word Gentiles, it's not as simple as in the Old Testament, where when you see Gentiles, it's always Goyim, which is nations, and you have to see more information to see which nation they're talking about, because they'll refer to Israel as Goyim too, because Israel is a nation. But you have to see the proper context that is being used in the Old Testament. Majority of the time when they're referring to Goyim, using the term Goyim, they're referring to all other nations other than Yasharal, because we were sanctified. We were pulled away from every other nation. But when you go into the New Testament, they use different words. They use Hellenist. They used ethnos. They'll use other words. One means nations that are not of Israelite. Another word just means Greek speaking Yehudim, and then there's other times that it means just the Greeks. So you got to be careful so that you get a proper understanding. So when you see here, they're using ethnos, they're letting you know all the nations. So the other nations also have a piece of this as well. And Shabbat Shalom, Kim Marie. Good to see you.
Verse 31. But Yasharal, which followed after the law of righteousness, has not attained to the law of righteousness. Wherefore? Because they sought it not by faith, but as it were by the works of the law. For they stumbled at that stumbling stone.
And 32 simplifies everything so you understand it. Because they sought it not by faith, but as it were by the works of the law. The works of the law is not just, doing works. Like I'm just going to try to go to assembly and do a lot of works and feed the homeless and do all that. That's not what they're talking about here. They're talking about how we try to seek after this righteousness by killing an animal. By saying, okay, I did some transgression. I'm not going to repent. I'm just going to kill this animal and I'm good to go. And I sought it by that. Whereas the Gentiles weren't under the covenant. So there was no animal sacrifice for them. So the only way that they could seek their righteousness was to actually repent and stop doing the actions that they were doing. So they were actually learning more righteousness than the children of Yasharal. Because we were passing this down from generation to generation. Oh, you lied. Why you did that? Go kill that animal. Oh man, you see, you keep lying, you have to keep killing animals. So you better stop. You might as well put those animals to the side because you keep lying. And we were never truly having a contrite or humble spirit. So the Gentile started becoming more righteous than us because they were understanding the righteousness of the law. Finish it up, Art.
Verse 33. As it is written, behold, I lay in Zion a stumbling stone and a rock of offense, and whosoever believes on him shall not be ashamed.
So this word became a stumbling stone. Instead of it as something that was to guide us and allow us to gain understanding, we didn't want to gain understanding. We just wanted loopholes, and we just wanted to appear righteous. And we still do it to this very same day, where we hide behind these commandments instead of looking at, well, what is the spirit of this law? What is he trying to accomplish? How do I repent? Let's move on. Let's go to Matthew chapter 7. Matthew chapter 7. So again, he gave us a lot of shocking stuff in there. Just because they are of Yasharal don't mean that they're Yasharala. And Yahshua is going to clarify this as well. Furthermore, who family is. Who is the family of Yasharal? Who is the body? It was his bloodline that killed him, but it wasn't his spiritual family that killed him.
Matthew chapter 7 and verse 1. Judge not that you be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, you shall be judged, and with what measure you meet, it shall be measured to you again. And why behold you the mote that is in your brother's eye, but consider not the beam that is in your own eye? Or how will you say to your brother, let me pull out the mote out of your eye, and behold, a beam is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of your own eye, and then shall you see clearly to cast out the mote out of your brother's eye.
And this is a little bit about what we talked about earlier before the class, about accountability. Us as a nation, we have to be accountable. Because if we are, again, like what we read in Romans 9, we are the givers of the law. We do the service of the law. How are we going to carry ourselves in a manner that others are going to look at us as hypocrites? We telling you, you need to repent, you need to do this, you need to do that. But they looking at us like, bruh, look what you filthy. What is you talking about? So you still need to do your job regardless of what state you're in. You still need to be a giver of the law and give yourself the law and give everybody else the law and rebuke your brother according to the commandments. But you're not giving your best effort to cause somebody to have the best opportunity to repent, because it's hard for them to hear it from you because you're being a hypocrite. So we have to hold ourselves accountable. And we like to say, well, I'm just going to separate myself and I'm just going to do my dirt alone. That way I don't affect nobody. You are affecting somebody because you are part of the body for a reason, because you're supposed to be out and shining your light. Your light is supposed to be shining. The world is full of darkness. And if you are separating yourself and not dealing with the things that you need to deal with, you are limiting your capacity to do the job you were created for. Now, that doesn't mean there's times that you have to sanctify yourself. If your light is going out and your light is dimming, then you got to, just like if you have a flashlight that's going out, you got to go to the side and work on it and make sure you can get it together. And that's what he's saying in here as well, to get your own stuff together so you can help your brother, because your brother needs help. And guess what? When you help your brother remove the speck from his eye, he now has clearer vision to help you remove things that's in your eye, because he can see better now.
Verse 6. Give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and rend you. So
in other words, you don't have to force your righteousness of this word on anybody. You give it to them, but you start to see what a dog is. A dog is a beast without law. It's an animal. A dog will throw up and go lick it up. A dog will lick his own pee, lick his own behind, screw his own sister or brother or a dog. The dog don't care. It's completely carnal. And it says, neither cast your pearls before swine. It is an unclean animal. It will kill you. It will eat you. It will destroy you. It does not care. We got kicked off of off YouTube because we posted a video of a pig eating a dead dog to demonstrate how unclean this animal is. The dog is dead. It's eating a dead dog like it's nothing. That's how unclean this animal is. So once you identify that an animal is so unclean that it wants to be in filthiness and will kill you without no regard and then eat you, you got to back up. Does that mean that that individual is going to be like that forever? We don't know. That's the will of the Most High. But once you identify that the righteousness of this word means absolutely nothing to them, you say what you got to say and back off, because you got to retain your spirit. Go ahead.
Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asks receives, and everyone that seeks finds, and to him that knocks it shall be opened. Or what man is there of you whom, if his son ask bread, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he give him a serpent? If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him?
Closed mouths don't get fed. Go to your Father. Never forsake your prayer. I know I'm one of the key people with this. I'll find myself and I'll do something, and in the eyes of an average person, it may seem very trivial. Ain't that serious? But in the eyes of the Most High, I know that these things can be very grievous unto the Most High when I commit transgression. And I feel so filthy and so dirty and so down on myself, because I know I should be known better. I know that I'm held to a higher standard, and I hold myself to a higher standard. I don't even want to talk to the Most High. I don't even want to look at him. I don't even want to call his name, because I'm so filthy. I don't even want to do it. And that's what the adversary wants us to do. No, ask. Ask for help. Go to your Father. He is merciful. He sees everything. So you think whatever little sin you did, you think that's some great thing to him, that he's just so ashamed? He sees the sins of the whole world. So don't isolate yourself. Don't listen to the adversary, the devil. Go to your Father. Pray to him. Never forsake the prayer of the saints, the assembling of the saints. Get together, pray. I don't care what you have done. Go before your Father in honesty. Even if the whole prayer is just talking about how filthy you are and how messed up you are, and acknowledging how bad you are and how you need help. Do that. Don't separate yourself from the Father. That's what the adversary wants to do, because that's what he did with Eve. He waited till Eve was separate from her husband, and now he could get in her head and start getting all those lies into her ear. We can't allow the adversary to do that. Go before your Father. He knows how to communicate to you in a way that you can understand. Ask and you will receive. Go ahead.
Verse 9. Or what man is there of you whom, if his son ask bread, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask...
Verse 12.
Verse 12. If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him? Therefore, all things whatsoever you would that men should do to you, do you even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. And to you in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leads unto life, and few there be that find it.
And to just put that in easier perspective, if there's a pathway, and the broad way is to do all these other things that you can do, and whatever decision you make, it's real wide because you got a whole broad way to do things. But throughout all those decisions, there's the commandments say only this is lawful. This amount is lawful. That's the narrow path. That's the only way for you to get into the kingdom, is to walk on that narrow path. But the adversary will confuse you with all these selections. So when we find ourselves, I don't know what to do. Where do I go? What do I say? How do I handle this? The first thing you need to do is say, what is lawful? What is lawful? Now you know that there's only these many decisions you can make, and now you can pray for guidance, and you can try to pick from your own intellect and your own experience and counsel what is the best way for you to go. Go ahead.
Verse 15. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so every good tree brings forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. So you can't tell me you a good tree and all I see is poison berries and horrible fruit. That's not that. You can't tell me my heart is good, I have a good heart, but we looking at the fruits of your actions. It's straight destruction. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can't change. We've all been in a situation where we had a season of bad fruit. But at the end of the day, that's how you're going to know how somebody is dealing. Not by what, how they say they are, or how they trying to convince you they are in their heart. Look at their fruits. The children of Yasharal, those that are going to enter the kingdom, are going to be fruitful, because that's how you glorify the Father. He said, herein is how you glorify the Father, is that you bear much fruit. And Shabbat Shalom, Brother Yafi Yehuda. Good to see you. Verse 18. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that brings not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore, by their fruits you shall know them. So you're going to serve the Most High one way or another, whether you want to be that tree bearing fruit or you want to be firewood. One way or another, you're going to serve. That fruit brings life. Because when you bear that fruit, whether you eat the fruit, whatever you eat, it's going to come out. That seed going to come out. And that seed can plant and grow more trees and bear more fruit. But that firewood, once it's burned, it ain't bearing nothing. Smoke. That's it. That's all you have, a proof that this tree was here, was the smoke that's in the air that disappeared. But that fruit, every time you look at that fruit tree and new fruit trees growing, there's proof that there was life there and that there's still life growing. Go ahead. Verse 21. Not everyone that says unto me, Master, Master, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name, and in your name have cast out devils, and in your name done many wonderful works? And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you that work iniquity. All right, so not everyone that says unto me, Master, Master, Adonai, Adonai, I'm acknowledging that you're the head. So I'm part of the body because I'm acknowledging you're the head. Not everybody's going to enter into the kingdom because they lips, they worship me, but their heart is far from me. If I was your master, Yahweh said, if I was your king and your master, your Elohim, where is my fear? Where is my honor? Where is my respect? So if this word is your master,
that means you are going to do the actions that this word dictates. That's the difference between the carnal and the spiritual. Because the carnal, there's nothing stopping them from doing that. You can do whatever you want. But the spirit has something stopping them. The righteousness of this word is stopping them or forcing them to continue forward.
Verse 24. Therefore, whosoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him unto a wise man which builds his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And every one that hears these sayings of mine and does them not shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it.
And that is when you building your foundation on these other doctrines, on these other, things that appear, this Pan-Africanism and Hinduism and Buddhism and all. They got a lot of good things in there. Don't get me wrong. It ain't all bad. But eventually, when the storm comes, which means water and wind and high velocity is coming into all the cracks and holes in your doctrine, you finna get knocked over. But if you build that house on something that's infallible, the beginning truth, the only righteousness, the source of all righteousness, there is no holes. And whatever holes is there, you got a covering. You got angels that's blocking you and trying to protect you. So we got to make sure that we separate ourselves from those other carnal religions. Because that's what they are. They're carnal. They're of a man. And we need to take hold of the original religion and spirituality that was given to us. The only thing that works.
We're on verse 28.
Yes, sir.
And it came to pass when Yahshua had ended these sayings that the people were astonished at his doctrine. For he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes.
And that's what this word does to you. Once this word, you really take this word into you and you truly believe it, you speak with a different type of authority. I know people will look at me and say, who does God think he is? Talking with this kind of authority like he knows everything or nah, don't take that. Don't take that as that. Take it as I truly believe in this word. So the word is not me. I don't authorize this. Yah authorized this. So I can speak with the utmost authority on this word because all I'm telling you is what this word says. Period. Now, what I can't do is go out there and do the opposite of the things that I'm saying, whether I'm just reading this book as a reader or whether I'm preaching this word or whether I'm sitting in the back saying amen. I can't speak with that kind of authority. And that's why people will not want to speak with that kind of authority because they don't truly believe and they're not enacting that word. And when you do speak with this kind of authority, the kind of authority that the Mashiach spoke with in this word, when you're off, the word going to deal with you. And we don't want to be dealt with. So that's why we don't want to say nothing. That's why we want to sit in the back and take notes and don't really want to speak anything about this word because we don't want the word to come clean us up. But you can't be that way. Because carnally, you're not going to make it into the kingdom that way. The Spirit is going to have to clean you up. The Word is going to have to clean you up. And once you start speaking with this authority, you're also giving the authority for the Most High to clean you up and allow you to be not a hypocrite when you speak these words. And it's a painful process, but it's worth it. You have so much more peace in your life once the Most High exercises some of these things out of your life that is causing you to be a problem. I know one thing that the Most High worked with me, which is I'm light years ahead of where I used to be, is anger. Anger used to be my Achilles heel. Now I'm at the point where I get angry, but I have so much more control. And I prayed for help with that. And the help wasn't the Most High said, here you go, your anger is gone. Now the Most High put me in angry situations and made me see myself and made me have to deal with it and learn to be accountable for my own actions. And that helped me get a better control of my anger because I'm still working on it. And this is how we have, because I had to sit here and teach classes about anger management. And I couldn't sit here. And I know Jonathan felt the same thing when he taught his classes about warrior peace. You can't sit up here speaking with that kind of authority because you truly believe and not look at yourself and not get dealt with in those manners. So let's move on. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 20. Amen, sis. Kim Marie, she said she desires the kingdom. And this is what we do. We desire the kingdom, then we do kingdom-like things, which means we keep the commandments. The Most High said we assemble on the Shabbat. We assemble on the Shabbat. If it's too far away, we find a way to assemble. Praise Yah. Ezekiel chapter 20. And we're going to start this at verse 1. So he said, you know, only a remnant shall be saved. So in this remnant, it ain't going to just start with a remnant that just show up. There's going to be a large portion of Yasharal that has that opportunity. But they refuse to leave Babylon behind. The same way we refuse to leave that confusion behind in Egypt. It's the same thing we're going to go through leaving out our lands of captivity. There's going to be individuals that refuse to leave it behind. And the Most High is going to be merciful. But when he's approaching closer unto us and the word Yahshua is coming closer unto us, there's less room for error. And there's going to be a purging process. And we're in that purging process right now as we speak. This is why we're seeing people fall away. People in this word were like, really? I came into the word from your documentaries, from your shows. So many people have been saved from following you and the things that you are preaching. Now, where are you? These people falling away. All these things are prophesied. There's a sifting going on. And if you find yourself being pulled away from keeping these commandments and keeping his holy days, you are being sifted. You are in a danger zone. Get on your knees, pray, and you fight with all the power in your body to keep the commandments to the best of your understanding. Ezekiel chapter 20, let's start this at verse 1.
And it came to pass in the 7th year, in the 5th month of the 10th day of the month, that certain of the elders of Yasharal came to inquire of Yahweh and sat before me. Then came the word of Yahweh unto me, saying, Son of man, speak unto the elders of Yasharal, and say unto them, Thus says my sovereign Yahweh, Are you come to inquire of me? As I live, says my sovereign Yahweh, I will not be inquired of by you. Will you judge them, son of man? Will you judge them? Cause them to know the abominations of their fathers, and say unto them, Thus says my sovereign Yahweh, In the day when I chose Yasharal, and lifted up my hand unto the seed of the house of Jacob, and made myself known unto them in the land of Mitzrayim, when I lifted up my hand unto them, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim, in the day that I lifted up my hand unto them, to bring them forth of the land of Mitzrayim into a land that I had espied for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands. Then said I unto them, Cast you away every man the abomination of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Mitzrayim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. But they rebelled against me, and would not hearken unto me. They did not every man cast away the abominations of their eyes, neither did they forsake the idols of Mitzrayim. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the midst of the land of Mitzrayim. But I wrought for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted before the heathen among whom they were, in whose sight I made myself known unto them, in bringing them forth out of the land of Mitzrayim. Wherefore I caused them to go forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, and brought them into the wilderness, and I gave them my statutes, and showed them my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. Moreover, also I gave them my Shabbats to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am Yahweh that sanctifies them. But the house of Yasharal rebelled against me in the wilderness. They walked not in my statutes, and they despised my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. And my Shabbats they greatly polluted. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them in the wilderness to consume them.
So the Sabbath there, that's an easy way to get yourself X'd out of the equation. He's telling you in verse 12, moreover, I gave them my Shabbats to be a sign between me and them. The Most High is not like us. We can communicate to one another. I can say, bro, I deal with you. You my boy, man. We cool. I can tell you that. And you can tell me, yeah, I agree. I accept that. Yeah, I believe you. Yeah, we cool. But the Most High can't talk to us in that manner. He's not dealing with us like that no more. He's not. He told us you're going to have many days without a prophet. So we can only communicate with him now in the way he tell us to communicate. And the way he tell us to communicate is to keep his commandments. And he's telling you specifically here, here's the sign. Here's the signal between us that I am your Elohim and you're my people. Keep this Shabbat. So this is the constant sign that we have to show every week throughout all the transgression we do, all the mistakes, all the good things, all the glory, everything. This is our chance to show him, listen, just so we can confirm that I want to be part of that remnant. I desire the kingdom. I'm showing you this sign every chance I get. If you know that you are in a bad situation and you got to put a sign up in the air to get help from somebody, and you know there's murderers out there, would not you want to just shine the sign up there all the time and just have the sign so that you could constantly have that protection and constantly let the Most High know, hey, look, I'm just letting you know I'm with you. All this stuff going on out here, hey, I'm letting you know I'm with you. I'm with you. Here's the sign. So when the adversary is outside ready to come into my door, just so you know, I got the sign already on blast to let you know that I belong to you. So them angels, them evil angels know I can't mess with them because they got that symbol up there. And furthermore, because they got that symbol up there, they got them angels protecting them. Just because you can't see the danger don't mean the danger is out there. But we see the results of that. Go ahead, Art.
Verse 14, but I wrought for my name's sake that it should not be polluted before the heathen in whose sight I brought them out. Yet also I lifted up my hand unto them in the wilderness, that I would not bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands, because they despised my judgments, and walked not in my statutes, but polluted my Shabbats, for their heart went after their idols.
Okay, so when it says they despised, does that mean they say, you know, I hate these commandments. I hate Yahweh's law. I hate all this stuff. We think when we hear despise, that's what we think. I despise that person. I hate that person. Now, when you don't put it in the proper level of importance, you despised it. With Esau, he despised this inheritance because he traded it for a meal, for one meal. So you showing your actions that you don't hold these things that are supposed to be high. That's like if we put a precious, flawless diamond on the table. And we knock it off the table like it's nothing. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take this rhinestone over here and I'm going to put it in this encasement like it's all great. We never said we despised that diamond that's worth millions of dollars. No, but your actions show you didn't care. You took the rhinestone and said, oh, man, get away from my rhinestone. We're a fool. And this is what we do with all these carnal things. We take all these carnal things and we willing to go to war for all these things and do all this. But when it comes to the righteousness of this law, it's too much. Can't do it. It's grievous. All these type of things. That means we despising this. And this is what the children of Yasharal did. They despised it when they didn't say, look, Yah's righteousness, everything else, I'm not dealing with it. I'm dealing with Yah's righteousness. We despised it. And that's why he said, oh, you want to come inquire of me? You want to come to me and talk to me about, oh, help me, oh, Yah, and praise you, oh, Yah. Nah, you despise me. You despise my commandments. Because if you despise my commandments, you despise me. Go ahead.
Verse 17, nevertheless my eyes spared them from destroying them, neither did I make an end of them in the wilderness. But I said unto their children in the wilderness, walk you not in the statutes of your fathers, neither observe their judgments, nor defile yourselves with their idols. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Walk in my statutes and keep my judgments and do them, and hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that you may know that I am Yahweh your Elohim.
Now, when he says things, he's saying it over and over again. When he repeats something in the same verse, that means pay attention because we hard-headed. That's why sometimes it seems like we read in the same scriptures over and over. Yeah, we are. We reading the whole book over and over again because Yahweh is constantly telling us over and over and over. Because so we can't act like we didn't know how important the Sabbath is. He's talking about all these different things that was a abomination to him, but then yet he keeps keying on certain things. So at minimum, if you starting to clean your life up, you want to start with those things that Yahweh is showing you and highlighting that is very important to him.
Verse 21, notwithstanding the children rebelled against me and walked not in my statutes, neither kept my judgments to do them, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. They polluted my Shabbats. Then I said, I would pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the wilderness. Nevertheless, I withdrew my hand and wrought for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted in the sight of the heathen in whose sight I brought them forth. I lifted up my hand unto them also in the wilderness, that I would scatter them among the heathen and disperse them through the countries, because they had not executed my judgment, but had despised my statutes, and had polluted my Shabbats, and their eyes were after their fathers' idols.
So all your answers are right in here. We asked ourselves, as children, when we found out we were slaves, we thought, well, why would God do that to us? Why he didn't do that to these white people? Why he didn't do it to them Asian people? Why it's always us? Well, why would he do? Does God hate us? And your answer is right there. He tells you, because they had not executed my judgments and despised my statutes and polluted my Shabbat. Despise my statutes and judge. There's a whole lot. There's so many, 613 commandments. But through all that, you didn't keep my commandments and didn't keep my Shabbats. He's letting you know where his importance is. And he said, I lifted up my hand unto them also in the wilderness, that I would scatter them among the heathen and disperse them through the countries. So there's your answer. The problem is we want some mystical type answer. We want to blame somebody. We want to say because white man is wicked is why we dispersed out through all the countries. White man didn't have everything to do with every dispersion that we had. We went over some of that in Bible study. We were on other countries dispersed before we got to America. And white man didn't have nothing to do with that. Go ahead.
Verse 25. Wherefore I gave them also statutes that were not good and judgments whereby they should not live.
You deal with Yahweh righteous and upfront in truth, he's going to deal with you in truth. You deal with them froward, he going to deal with you froward. Okay, so you want to chase all these wicked statutes and everything here. There's a bunch of pagan gods that don't even exist, but I'm not going to hold them back. My angel going to let them walk right through them same spirits. And here go all these foolish statutes. Circumcision with your mouth on a baby's penis. He going to give you all these dumb statutes, passing your child through fire. In Eskimo culture, they actually have where it is custom that the host wife sleep with the visitor. What kind of statute is that? Adultery? These are the weird things that the Most High said, listen, you want to do all this foolishness since you despise righteousness? Here you go. Here's a bunch of dumb stuff that you can do. Go ahead.
Verse 26, and I polluted them in their own gifts, in that they caused to pass through the fire all that opens the womb, that I might make them desolate, to the end that they might know that I am Yahweh. Therefore, Son of Man, speak unto the house of Yasharal, and say unto them, Thus says my sovereign Yahweh, Yet in this your fathers have blasphemed me, in that they have committed a trespass against me. For when I had brought them into the land for the which I lifted up my hand to give it to them, then they saw every high hill and all the thick trees, and they offered their sacrifices, and there they presented the provocation of their offering. There also they made their sweet savor, and poured out their drink offerings. Then I said unto them, What is the high place whereunto you go? And the name thereof is called Bama unto this day. Wherefore say unto the house of Yasharal, Thus says my sovereign Yahweh, Are you polluted after the manner of your fathers? And commit you whoredom after their abominations? For when you offer your gifts, when you make your sons to pass through the fire, you pollute yourselves with all your idols, even unto this day. And shall I be inquired of by you, O house of Yasharal? As I live, says my sovereign Yahweh, I will not be inquired of by you. And that which comes into your mind shall not be at all, that you say, we will be as the heathen, as the families of the countries, to serve wood and stone. As I live, says my sovereign Yahweh, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. And I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein you have been scattered, with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out.
So this is the reason for the tribulation and anguish that we are going through. It's because with a mighty arm, a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out, is he going to bring us out of these countries. Now, before he can physically bring us out, he has to spiritually bring us out. He has to bring us out of this, our spirit, which is of this Babylonian culture, Babylonian land. He has to bring our mental, our spirit out of that into the spiritual land of Jerusalem, which is the body. He has to bring us into the body and let us learn how to walk in righteousness so that we don't defile the land when we go back into the land. And unfortunately, he's telling you how this process is the same way it was with every other process that he did with the children of Yahshua, bringing them out. Death, destruction, tribulation, anguish, and bloodshed. And that's what we're seeing. But those that are going to allow themselves to be changed and give up their body so that they can receive a new body, those people will be purged out because it's going to be spiritual. So they will have the spiritual protection to allow them to get through these type of things.
Verse 35. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face.
Okay. I will bring you into the wilderness of the people. So there's a spiritual understanding and there's a carnal understanding of that. Why is he saying the wilderness of the people? What is the wilderness? Look at that. Let's look at those words. What's the wilderness?
H40, 57.
All right. And that's midbar, in the sense of driving a pasture, open field, where the cattle are driven, by implication a desert. Also speech as its organs, desert, south speech, wilderness. So I'm going to bring you into a dry place of the people. All right, what's the word for people? What is it? Ami or something like that? A family?
Wilderness of the people.
Is it H what?
H5971.
5971. It's Ami, just people. I'm going to bring you into the desert, dry place of the people, specifically a tribe, hence troops, attendants, figuratively a flock, folk, men, nation. I'm going to bring you into a place of people that are dry, that have no living, flowing waters amongst them. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 36. Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Mizraim.
We'll read the full verse of 35.
And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face.
Now, how else does Yahweh plead with us? How has he always pled with us? Is he, hey, children of Israel, please keep the commandments. Stop doing what you're doing. How does he plead with us? He gave you the answer in 33. Plead with us with a mighty hand, with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out. So he's going to bring us in a dry place amongst the people, a bunch of people that have no spirit, and there he's going to plead with you face to face, because all those people with no spirit going to be looking at how the children of Yasharal are getting dealt with and how he's pleading with us face to face. Face is pineal. The pineal gland, your spiritual antenna. I'm going to put you in a non-spiritual place, and I'm going to deal with you spiritually and communicate with you face-to-face spiritually, the same way Moshe communicated face-to-face with Yah, to the point where his face glowed.
Verse 37. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant.
I'm going to whoop you. You're going to get spanked. You're going to get dealt with. And if you don't want to accept that correction, then there's the next step.
And I will purge out from among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Yasharal, and you shall know that I am Yahweh.
So just because you made it to the land don't mean you Israel or you saved. Because he's telling you right here, I'm gonna bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn. And they shall not enter into the land of Yasharal, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. So you're going to have people that are getting into the land, into that area, but they're not going into the spiritual part. They're not going into the real part where we at. He going to purge them out in the dry place. And when you go over there right now, into where our land is, it's dry. It's dry. From my own accounts from people that have been over there, they not spiritual like that. They not dealing with these commandments. They transgressing these commandments. One condition for a lot of those people to even get over there, they gotta give up the Mashiach. From people that's trying to get from Ethiopia into the land, as they gotta come in through Judaism. And that's why you see a lot of those camps that are over there in the land, they not dealing with the Mashiach like that. Go ahead.
Verse 39, as for you, O house of Yasharal, thus says my sovereign Yahweh, go you, serve you every one his idols. And hereafter also, if you will not hearken unto me, but pollute you my holy name, no more with your gifts and with your idols. For in my holy mountain is the mountain of the height of Yasharal, says my sovereign Yahweh. And there shall all the house of Yasharal, all of them in the land, serve me. There will I accept them, and there will I require your offerings and the first fruits of your oblations with all your holy things.
All right, let's stop right there. Let's move on. Let's go to Amos chapter 9. Amos chapter 9. So he said he's going to purge out the rebels in the wilderness. So he's letting us know that there is a purging process going on. Understand that. It doesn't say, that he done with the purging. And the purging process, every last one of us are going through that. Either he purges out those things that offend him and that don't cause him to receive glory, or you get purged out. What's more important to you? Those carnal things that feel so good to the flesh, because that's why we do it. We don't do things because they feel bad to us. We do it because it feels good to us. What's more important? That thing, that carnal thing that's causing a separation between you and Yah? Or entering into the kingdom, receiving your inheritance, finally having peace in life, but for eternity? You show the Most High what's important to you. You show him where your importance level is with these things. And we show him through our actions, not our mouth. Because he said, everybody that say Adonai, Adonai, not going to enter into the kingdom.
Amos chapter 9 and verse 1. I saw Yahweh standing upon the altar, and he said, smite the lintel of the door that the posts may shake, and cut them in the head, all of them. And I will slay the last of them with the sword. He that flees of them shall not flee away, and he that escapes of them shall not be delivered. Though they dig into the grave, there shall my hand take them. Though they climb up to heaven, there will I bring them down. And though they hide themselves in the top of Carmel, I will search and take them out there. And though they be hid from my sight in the bottom of the sea, there will I command the serpent, and he shall bite them. And though they go into captivity before their enemies, there will I command the sword, and it shall slay them. And I will set my eyes upon them for evil and not for good. And my sovereign Yahweh of hosts is he that touches the land, and it shall melt. And all that dwell therein shall mourn, and it shall raise up wholly like a flood, and shall be drowned as by the flood of Mitzrayim. It is he that builds his stories in the heaven, and has founded his troop in the earth. He that calls for the waters of the sea, and pours them out upon the face of the earth. Yahweh is his name. Are you not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Yasharal, says Yahweh. Have not I brought up Yasharal out of the land of Mitzrayim, and the Philistines from Caphtor, and the Syrians from Ker?
Are you not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, as Cush? So obviously he has some kind of love for the people in that region, that area. Because that area is where the Garden of Eden is. Go ahead.
Verse 8, behold, the eyes of my sovereign Yahweh are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth, saving that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, says Yahweh. For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Yasharal among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve. Yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth.
So the Most High knows what he's doing. He's not missing anybody. He didn't forget somebody when somebody falls away. The Most High knows what he's doing. He said he's going to sift the house of Yasharal amongst all nations. So you might be bloodline Israel, and he's sifting you. He's putting you in that sifter, and only spiritual Israel is going to come out. Bloodline and carnal Israel that does not want to change is going to be sifted the same way he has done this process every time we entered into the land. Every single time we were prepared to enter the land, there was this sifting process. So we shouldn't feel like it's going to be different just because we went through some kind of tribulation and anguish. All of us went through that. All the brothers and sisters that we read about went through that tribulation and anguish. But how did you come out afterwards? Go ahead.
Verse 10, all the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say, the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us.
All the sinners of my people. And see, what we don't understand sometimes is we forget. The prophecy tells us the adversary, the devil, is trying to kill the commandment keepers. Yahshua and his 144 is coming after these people here, the sinners of his people that are doing the evil. That's who Yahshua and his 144 is coming for. So while we sit here want to blame stuff on the adversary, the devil, the Most High is causing a lot of these things to happen to us, and we can choose by our actions how we want this to affect us. Affect us to purge this wickedness out, or affect this to cause us to be purged out of the kingdom.
In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom, and of all the heathen which are called by my name, says Yahweh, that does this. Behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that sows seed, and the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt.
Read verse 12 again.
That they may possess the remnant of Edom, and of all the heathen which are called by my name, says Yahweh, that does this.
So there's heathen that are called by his name. That's interesting. Go ahead.
Behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that sows seed, and the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. And I will bring again the captivity of my people Yasharal, and they shall build the waste cities, and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof. They shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of them.
Okay, when it's talking about bring again the captivity, he's returning the people of captivity. He's taking away the captivity. He's not putting us back in captivity again. Go ahead.
And I will plant them upon their land, and they shall no more be polluted, shall no more be pulled up out of their land which I have given them, says Yahweh, your Elohim.
That's what we're playing for right now. That's the stakes that we're going after, is to enter our land and never be removed. That's peace. Here, everywhere we live now, we got to worry about something. You know, I purchased a house, I paid off. I still got to worry about taxes. I got to worry about, you know, if they're going to build a highway through my house. I got to worry about, you know, is there going to be a hurricane that's going to flatten my house that I can't afford to pay for or fix? But to actually come into your place of your nativity and have peace separate from the world and separate from the adversary of the devil, that is the most precious thing that you can possibly have. And we have to act as if that is precious. Not with our mouths, but with our actions, showing that I'm not going to let my carnal flesh pull me away from that inheritance that I'm trying to receive. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 13. It's another few chapters down from where we're at. Zechariah chapter 13. Or Zechariah chapter 13. And this is the one that everybody is afraid of. Nobody wants to look at this one. You know, I done had several times people have told me to not preach this, that this is too scary, that this is, you know, people don't want to hear this. Or what. Well, people need to hear this because this is terrifying. This is terrifying. If we have 3 people in this room right now, according to this prophecy, 2 of us is not entering into the kingdom. If that don't put some fire up under you, because what makes us in every situation we are around, where we are around 3 people total, that we are more righteous than 2 out of 3 people? Or we know that the Most High going to give us more mercy than 2 out of 3 people?
Zechariah chapter 13 and verse 1. In that day there shall be a fountain open to the house of David and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem for sin and for uncleanness. And it shall come to pass in that day, says Yahweh of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols out of the land, and they shall no more be remembered. And also I will cause the prophets and the unclean spirit to pass out of the land.
And that's what we need. We're surrounded by all these unclean spirits. That's why we're constantly fighting in the flesh not to do all this wickedness. These are spirits that are trying to lead us away from the Most High. And it's about cutting off all the names of the idols out of the land. That means there ain't gonna be no more Monday, ain't gonna be no Tuesday, ain't gonna be no Woden's Day, ain't gonna be no Thor's Day, ain't gonna be no Frigg's Day, ain't gonna be no Saturn's Day, and ain't gonna be no Sun's Day. Ain't gonna be the Lord Baal anymore. Ain't gonna be God, the deity of fortune. There's gonna be real Hebrew names and real names of the one true Father and Son given to us. But he's not going to give something that holy unto a people that are going to defile it and blaspheme that name, because we are called by those names. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And it shall come to pass that when any shall yet prophesy, then his father and his mother that begat him shall say unto him, You shall not live, for you speak lies in the name of Yahweh. And his father and his mother that begat him shall thrust him through when he prophesies.
Didn't you just talk about that the other day? Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the prophets shall be ashamed, every one of his vision, when he has prophesied. Neither shall they wear a rough garment to deceive. But he shall say, I am no prophet, I am an husbandman, for man taught me to keep cattle from my youth. And one shall say to him, What are these wounds in your hands? Then he shall answer, Those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends.
And that's prophecy. That's prophetic of the Mashiach. And this is what we have. You look at your hands, that's what you're seeing. The wounds of those of your house. When you look at friends, this is talking about your house. Your house, your nation. It's your people that are putting these wounds in your hands. The stranger ain't gonna sneak up on you unless you just a fool at this point. The stranger ain't gonna sneak up on you and surprise you. You already know he don't give a crap about you. But you looking at your friends and you looking at your family and your nation, especially those that are servants of the Most High, and you expecting that these are the people that I can trust. But you're gonna get wounds when you trying to help your people. Just like they're gonna get wounds trying to help you, because we all suffering, we all work in progress. So you gotta be prepared for that. Go ahead.
Verse 7.
Go ahead, Elder.
Yeah, I just want to add that I think that word means, I think it's aha, and tell your loved one. It's H157.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, you know, that's the things that touch your heart. The closest people are your family. You know, and that's why Yahweh puts his own family together, because, you know, Yeshua was talking about who is my mother and my brother and my sister. All the ones who want to worship my Father, that's the family that Yahweh put together.
Right.
And it's hard, you know, when we have to understand the division, you know, the separation, you know, the purification process, you know, that Yahweh puts us through to let us try and understand that he builds his families, you know, and not all to enter the kingdom. And that that doesn't mean that, when you're born into a family, you have several siblings and your mother and your father, their auntie, uncles, or cousins that, that they're going to enter into that city with you or even understand what you're saying. Some, as you said earlier, will be Yahweh's fruit and some will be Yahweh's wood. So we have to accept that and understand that and to hold no hatred in our hearts and allow that anger to slide by. Turn that anger into spiritual love, because Yahweh don't want you to hate your brother. That's one of the commandments that he put out through his son. And if we hold to that truth, we can be able to keep, the 10 commandments and the 6 or 13 commandments that Yahweh allows us to learn of, because this, he tells over and over again of what's going to happen, and then, your family going to turn you in. Your family don't understand that they can't stand, and they're going to fall under this pressure that the government, that the enemy, the adversary is going to push, to turn you in, and to save their own lives. So we have to learn how to learn this love of Yahweh so we can stand strong in that time if we are still alive in that time. So this has a deeper meaning than, many of us know. So I'm glad you bring it up, this chapter, because it gets heavier as you read.
Right. Right. And it goes hand in hand. He's using in English, it's friends. And it said, who is my friends? Those that do what I tell them to do. That's what Yahshua said. Those are my friends. And who loves me? Those that love the Father love me. And those that love me love the Father. And you love me, keep my commandments. And he tells you, these commandments, these words are not mine. These are my Father's words. I speak his words. Everything he has told me to do, this is what I say. You know what I'm saying? So this is where you're getting wounded in your own house, in your own ahab, your own love, your own friends, your family, those that you depend on, because you're going to get hurt if you truly love them, because you're going to have to fight with them, because we all are in this fight together and we got to help one another. And you can't turn around and have a grudge against that individual after you get that scar, because you want somebody to stand in the breach for you when you fall. And sometimes if somebody's in the fire, you might get burnt trying to get them about the fire and try to help them. And that's what it's going to take. Go ahead, brother.
Ezekiel chapter 13 and verse 7. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man that is my fellow, says Yahweh of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn my hand upon the little ones. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, says Yahweh, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the 3rd part shall be left therein.
So that's the scary prophecy. That means 66 and 6.666% of bloodline Israel is not going to make it into the kingdom. That's terrifying. He don't give that number. He don't tell us how much of the nation's gonna make it. He don't give nobody else, but he told us this is the warning for you. If you don't get circumspect, you're gonna find yourself part of the 66%. You don't want that. So if we look at ourselves honestly, we can see the true danger that we're in. But if we look at ourselves and compare ourselves to our neighbor and the people we grew up with and what we see on TV, it gives you a false sense of hope. But at the end of the day, you don't know the standard. Yah judges every man according to him, not according to what his neighbor did. Go ahead.
Verse 9, and I will bring the 3rd part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. And they shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Yahweh is my Elohim.
So this 3rd part is brought through the fire. But guess what? We brought through the fire. So is the 66%. They brought through fire too. But the difference is they're vessels of dishonor. They're burning up like firewood. Whereas we're being refined by this. So it is a blessing when you go through tribulation and anguish. And when you come out more refined. That is necessary. There ain't no other way that you can refine gold and silver. So we got to accept these chastening, accept these things, not judge one another when you see your servant in the fire. Don't judge. Allow them and help them, because when it's in there, you got to push the stuff that's at the top. There's a process. to help remove some of this dross in there. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15. So I know it's scary. And I know everybody want to hear all the good stuff about how great it and how we're going to be walking in the kingdom, and the child grabs on the asp and does this and everything is just great. That's all well and great. But who cares about that if we right now we're in danger of that? Yes, we know it's going to be great. We know it's going to be better. That's why we don't even need to go too much into that, because at the end of the day it says, eye has not seen, ears have not heard. You can't fathom. But what you can fathom is the things that we're doing right now that is causing our people to get killed. And beyond our own actions, which we have to be responsible for, we're responsible for our nation as well. So we got to tarry with one another. If you faint in adversity, your strength is weak. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about us. It's about our nation. And it's about helping that person that is fallen so he can get up and help somebody else that you couldn't reach on your own. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Let's start this at verse 1. Or wait a minute. What, did I say 15? Mm-hmm. Hold on. There is no 1 Corinthians chapter 15.
Yeah, there is. I'm there. You got you in second.
Oh,
right?
I'm in 2 Corinthians. Oh, okay. I was about to say. Okay. No wonder. All right. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 1.
Moreover, brethren, I declare unto you the good news which I preached unto you, which also you have received, and wherein you stand, by which also you are saved, if you keep in memory what I have preached unto you, unless you have believed in vain. For I delivered unto you, first of all, that which I also received, how that Mashiach died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day according to the Scriptures, and that he was seen of Cephas, then of the 12. After that he was seen of above 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain unto this present, but some are fallen asleep. After that he was seen of Jacob, James, then of all the apostles, and last of all he was seen of me also, as of one born out of due time. For I am the least of the apostles, that am not meet to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the assembly of Yahweh. But by the grace of Elohim I am what I am, and his grace which was bestowed upon me was not in vain, but I labored more abundantly than they all. Yet not I, but the grace of Elohim which was with me.
So we need to take that same perspective, that we also persecuted the assembly of Elohim. When we are part of the assembly of Elohim, but we decided to carry our vessels in a carnal way. We decided not to walk according to these commandments, even when it was done in ignorance. But we've also done it in full acknowledgement of what we're supposed to do in this word. So because we are who we are, because of the grace and the mercy of the Most High, we are still able to serve the Most High. So we don't need to do this in vain. We need to labor more abundantly, because the more you have an understanding of this word, the more you understand how wicked you were in the past and how wicked you can be in the present. So that means we have to labor more abundantly. And part of that labor is before you even leave the house. Part of that labor is dealing with your own stuff, dealing with your own situation, so you can approach the saints of the Most High without being a hypocrite. And Shabbat Shalom, Melvin Shelley. Good to see you, brother.
Verse 10. But by the grace of Elohim I am what I am, and his grace which was bestowed upon me was not in vain, but I labored more abundantly than they all. Yet not I, but the grace of Elohim which was with me. Therefore, whether it were I or they, so we preach, and so you believed. Now if Mashiach be preached that he rose from the dead, how say some among you that there is no resurrection of the dead? But if there be no resurrection of the dead, then is Mashiach not risen. And if Mashiach be not risen, then our preaching vain, and your faith is also vain. Yea, and we are found false witnesses of Elohim, because we have testified of Elohim that he raised up Mashiach, whom he raised not up, if so be that the dead rise not. For if the dead rise not, then is not Mashiach raised. And if Mashiach be not raised, your faith is in vain, you are yet in your sins. Then they
Brother
also.
West, can you go ahead and check the door, please?
Verse 18. Then they also, which are fallen asleep in Mashiach, are perished. If in this life only we have hope in Mashiach, we are of all men most miserable. But now is Mashiach risen from the dead, and become the first fruits of them that slept. For since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Mashiach shall all be made alive. But every man in his own order, Mashiach the firstfruits, afterward they that are Mashiach's at his coming. Then comes the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to Yahweh, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power. For he must reign till he has put all enemies under his feet. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. For he has put all things under his feet. But when he said all things are put under him, it is manifest that he is expected which did put all things under him. And when all things shall be subdued unto him, then shall the Son also himself be subject unto him that put all things under him, that Yahweh may be all in all.
So he's giving you the order. The Mashiach is reigning. He's the king. He's going to do all the works. And once he has prepared the earth and prepared the children of Yahshua and purged the wickedness out, now the Most High can come. And now when the Most High comes, the Mashiach falls back. He falls back in place like every other servant. And he does what he needs to do. And he's showing you the order. So you can't be, how is he going to be the same person as Yahweh? Who is he going to fall back to? Fall back to himself? It doesn't make any sense. So he's showing you, this is why he's telling you, don't call me good. Ain't nobody good but my Father that's in heaven. Go ahead.
Verse 29. Else what shall they do which are baptized for the dead? If the dead rise not at all, why are they then baptized for the dead? And why stand we in jeopardy every hour? I protest by your rejoicing, which I have in Mashiach Yahshua our Master, I die daily. If after the manner of men I have fought with beasts at Ephesus, what advantage it me, if the dead rise not? Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die.
Okay, and why stand we in jeopardy every hour? I protest every hour. I protest by your rejoicing, which I have in the Mashiach Yahshua our Adonai, I die daily. And this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be dying daily. The deeds of the flesh, when it was in control of this vessel, are supposed to be dying daily. And the spirit is supposed to be taken over. All those different aspects of our lives that the flesh was in control over the spirit, those controls are supposed to be dying. It doesn't mean that you're not going to do the carnal things that you need to do. You're only going to do those carnal things if it agrees with your spirit. Go ahead.
Verse 33. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners.
Evil behavior. Go ahead.
Awake to righteousness and sin not. For some have not the knowledge of Elohim. I speak this to your shame. But some man will say, how are the dead raised up? And with what body do they come? You fool. That which you sow is not quickened except it die. And that which you sow not that body that shall be, but bear grain that it may chance of wheat or of some other grain. But Elohim gives it a body as it has pleased him. To every seed his own body. All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another flesh of fishes, another of birds. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars, for one star differs from another star in glory. So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption, it is raised in incorruption. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. It is sown in a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body, and there is a spiritual body. And so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The last man, Adam, was made a quickening spirit. Howbeit, that was not the first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterward that which is spiritual. The first man is of the earth, earthly. The second man, the master from heaven. As is the earthly, such as are all, they also that are earthly. And as is heavenly, such are they also that are heavenly. And as we have borne the image of the earthly, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. Now this I say, brethren, that kind of flesh and blood, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahweh, neither does corruption inherit incorruption.
So flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom. Again, the first that was made was spiritual. But it says, you know, the second it's saying, howbeit that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterward that which is spiritual. So we came here in this earthly, carnal way. That man had to die, and a spiritual man had to come. So your flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom. So you being born originally the way you were, acting the way you were, cannot inherit the kingdom. So you can't stand here and think that your bloodline is going to get you into the kingdom, when clearly it tells you here, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom. Your spiritual bloodline is the only thing that's going to enter you into the kingdom. Now, your carnal bloodline is going to determine what gate you go through, because there's 12 gates, and all 12 of those gates are the 12 tribes of Israel. So you're going to have to go through your carnal gate. But at the end of the day, if you are in carnality, there ain't going to be any gate that you can enter, whether you're a Gentile or whether you're Yehudim. Go ahead.
Verse 51, behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed.
So everybody's not going to sleep. There's going to be people that will be alive at this time who will never see death. And we are so close, according to prophecies, to this time period that we don't know what period that is. So that means we may very well have an opportunity to live forever. If we live until the sabbatical kingdom, and we live through the 1,000 years of peace, and we live past the second judgment, the second death, then we will be able to live forever. But your body is going to be changed. You are not going to have that same body that you have now. There's no need for that, because it's a different earth. It's a new earth and a new heaven. Go ahead.
For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your sting? O grave, where is your victory? The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law. But thanks be to Elohim, which gives us the victory through our Master Yahshua Mashiach. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be you steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of Yahweh, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in Yahweh.
All right, so again, we have that new body that we are going to receive, that's not going to be flesh and blood. So again, as we read earlier, Yahshua was the first fruits of them that slept. He was the first fruits of man. So now we're going to see that example of that new body. Because again, keep that concept. Flesh and blood will not inherit the kingdom. Let's go to the conclusion. Let's go to Lucas chapter 14. And this is why Yahshua will tell us that we must be born again. That fleshly way of things is not going to enter into the kingdom. You must be born again in the spirit and be a new body that's led of the spirit, with the spirit controlling that body, not the flesh controlling the body. The flesh physically controls the body, but the flesh can't do nothing without the spirit and the mind telling you what to do. But you're allowing the thing that is supposed to be controlled by the spirit to control the body and control the spirit. It's backwards. That person has to die. So here we're going to see the example of that new body. Let's go to Lucas chapter 14, and we're going to read verses 12 through 53. Luke chapter 14, and we're going to read verses 12 through 53 for the conclusion.
Luke chapter 14 and verse 12. Then said he also to him that bade him, when you make a dinner or a supper, call not your friends, nor your brethren, neither your kinsmen, nor your rich neighbors, lest they also bid you again, and a recompense be made you. But when you make a feast, call the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and you shall be blessed, for they cannot recompense you, for you shall be recompensed at the resurrection of the just. And when one of them that sat at meat with him heard these things, he said unto him, Blessed is he that shall eat bread in the kingdom of Elohim. Then said he unto him, A certain man made a great supper and bade many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, Come, for all things are now ready. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. The first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must needs go.
All right,
and
we're at
see
the
it.
wrong chapter. We're supposed to be at Lucas chapter 24. My apologies. Lucas chapter 24. And start that at verse 12.
Then arose Kepha, Peter, and ran down unto the sepulchre, and stooping down, he beheld the linen clothes laid by themselves, and departed, wondering in himself at that which was come to pass.
So this is after the resurrection of the Mashiach. Go ahead.
And behold, two of them went that same day to a village called Emmaus, which was from Jerusalem about 60 furlongs. And they talked together of all those things which had happened. And it came to pass that while they communed together and reasoned, Yeshua himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were holden that they should not know him. And he said unto them, What manner of communications are these that you have one to another as you walk and are sad? And the one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answering, said unto him, Are you only a stranger in Jerusalem, and have not known the things which are come to pass there in these days? And he said unto them, What things? And they said unto him concerning Yeshua of Nazareth, which was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before Elohim and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death, and have impaled him. But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Yasharal. And beside all this, today is the 3rd day since these things were done. Yea, and certain women also of our company made us astonished, which were early at the sepulchre. And when they found not his body, they came saying that they had also seen a vision of angels, which said that he was alive. And certain of them which were with us went to the sepulchre, and found it even so, as the women had said, but him they saw not. Then he said unto them, O fools and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken, ought not Mashiach to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moshe and all the prophets, he expounded unto them all in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. And they drew nigh unto the village where they went, and he made as though he would have gone further. But they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is far spent. And he went to tarry with them. And it came to pass, as he sat at meat with them, he took bread and blessed it, and brake and gave to them. And their eyes were open, and they knew him, and he vanished out of their sight. And they said one to another, Did not our hearts burn within us while he talked with us by the way, and while he opened to us the scriptures? And they rose up the same hour and returned to Jerusalem, and found the 11 gathered together, and them that were with them, saying, The Master is risen indeed, and has appeared to Simon. And they told what things were done in the way, and how he was known of them in breaking of bread. And as they thus spoke, Yeshua himself stood in the midst of them, and said unto them, Peace be unto you. But they were terrified and affrighted, and supposed that they had seen a spirit. And he said unto them, Why are you troubled? And why do your thoughts arise in your hearts? Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me and see, for a spirit has not flesh and bones, as you see me have.
So notice he said, a spirit have not flesh and bones, as you have seen me. So again, keep that in mind. He didn't say flesh and blood, because if he had flesh and blood, you would see blood coming out those wounds and things that he had. He said a spirit have not flesh and bones. So he has this new body, a new body that can transfigure and do all different types of things, you know, but inside your blood carries the spirit, but it's also sin and uncleanness. So once that sin and uncleanness is out of you, you can do greater things. So he's the prototype of the body that we are to have and be. And again, those angels are not flesh and bone. Those angels are spirits. So the adversary, the devil, is not a man, is not a physical man or a physical woman, because they don't have flesh and bone. They're spirits. But that spirit, that adversarial spirit, can enter into a vessel and cause that and control that vessel to do the things that vessel is allowing that spirit to control. Go ahead.
Verse 40. And when he had thus spoken, he showed them his hands and his feet. And while they yet believed, not for joy, and wondered, he said unto them, have you here any meat?
What's that word for meat? I believe it's just food or substance. It's not necessarily meat.
G 1034. Brosimos,
which is eatable meat. Brosis, eating, by extension, food, eating food, meat. Yeah, so it's basically just have you any food. It's not necessarily flesh or meat. Go ahead.
And they gave him a piece of a broiled fish and of a honeycomb, and he took it and did eat before them.
So he did eat fish. He ate fish and honeycomb. Go ahead.
And he said unto them, these are the words which I spoke unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled which were written in the law of Moshe, and in the prophets, and in the Psalms concerning me. Then opened he their understandings, that they might understand the scriptures, and said unto them, thus it is written, and thus it behooved Mashiach to suffer, and to rise from the dead the third day, and that repentance and remission of sins should be preached in his name among all nations, beginning at Jerusalem.
So this is what we're supposed to be teaching. Repentance and remissions of sins. And it's supposed to be preached in his name, the word, Yahshua, among all nations, beginning at Jerusalem. Go ahead.
And you are witnesses of these things, and behold, I send the promise of my Father upon you. But tarry you in the city of Jerusalem until you be endued with power from on high.
So what were they waiting for?
The Ruach.
That's right. They were waiting for the Holy Spirit to descend. They were waiting on Pentecost. Go ahead.
And he led them out as far as to Bethany, and he lifted up his hands and blessed them. And it came to pass, while he blessed them, he was parted from them and carried up into heaven. And they worshipped him, and returned to Jerusalem with great joy, and were continually in the temple praising and blessing Elohim. Amen.
Amen. So that's all we're going to do today. Let's keep that in mind. We're going to have to leave that carnality behind. We live in a carnal world. So, I mean, we can't just be, out to lunch where, we think that we just going to pray and everything going to get done. No, a man is going to have to work. He's going to have to do what he needs to do. He's going to have to handle his earthly responsibilities, but you have to keep your priorities intact. Spiritual first, carnal second. And in doing that, you're showing that you have faith in the Most High, because the Most High never told us not to handle our business. He never taught us to be slothful servants. He never taught us not to handle our family business and do the things that we need to do. But he told us to keep things in order, and we have to learn to kill that person. And that person, he wasn't born in one day. That person might have came into the earth in one day, but the borning of that person was your life that you had all the way up until you were awakened and realized that this is not the way to go. So we have to continue that process, start dealing with things spiritually and looking at things spiritually first and seeing spiritually, how do I need to deal with that, and how does that affect my carnal way of handling things. So that's all we're going to do today. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer? And Shabbat Shalom, Sister Marshall. Good to see you. Any last questions or comments? And let's go ahead and close in prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. And all sisters pray with their heads covered. And Brother West, can you lead us out in prayer, please?
Our Father, Yahweh, Covenant Elohim, Abraham, Yishak, and Yaakov, pray to you today, Father, and we ask you to strengthen us, Father, as we battle daily against ourselves, Father, and overcoming the flesh and strengthening our spirits, Father, so that we can do your will, Father, more easily, Father, and offer ourselves as vessels for your will, Father, not vessels for dishonor, but for honor, Father, and for your glory, Father. We ask that you continue, not only us, Father, but for the nation, Yashua, and all the heathen and all the Gentiles called by your name, Father, as well, to strengthen us as we continue to just live through this world that's drowned in carnality, Father. So in Yeshua HaMashiach's holy mighty name we pray. Thank you for everything. Amen.
Amen.